If you've watched any horror movies from the past, say, 1,000 years, you've probably noticed that the genre isn't very kind to transgender people. Of course, that's true of all genres and mediums and facets of life, but once you start noticing the amount of film about how scary trans women are, it's weird, right? Why are there so many? Jame, also known as Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs, is probably the most famous fictional trans woman in Western canon, which is a bad thing. Much of the film's horror is derived from the idea that trans femininity is grotesque and unnatural, and that trans people are not only unstable, but dangerous to themselves and others. Hannibal alludes to the fact that she was denied healthcare due to instability, and throughout the film, Jame's trans femininity is implied to be the motive for her murder of cisgender women. In the book, it's directly stated. Historically, trans people's healthcare has been thoroughly gatekept by cisgender doctors. People were, and still are, denied treatment for many reasons, including being perceived as dangerous or mentally ill. And then you have Silence of the Lambs, which tries to distance itself from accusations of bigotry by saying, well, Jame isn't really transsexual, he's just insane. But being trans and living in a transphobic society is going to affect your mental health. And mentally ill people are people who deserve bodily autonomy. These facts seem to be lost on the film. It gestures vaguely towards a critique of systemic bigotry before launching into a full-throated defense of it. So if you haven't already guessed, this video is considering Silence of the Lambs to be representative of Hollywood's general attitude towards transgender people, especially women, especially in the horror genre. And to be clear, that is more due to notability than novelty. There are one or two other films that operate in a similar vein, such as Insidious Chapter 2, Dressed to Kill, Psycho, Sleepaway Camp, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Rocky Horror, Incident in a Ghostland, No Way to Treat a Lady, Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, Three on a Meat Hook, Deranged Terror Train, Blame the Dark, Newlyweds, Cherry Falls, Trans-American Killer, Split Glass, Homicidal Private Parts, Hereditary, Ghost Night Out, Fatal Games. In these films, the villain is in some way trans-feminized, and the audience is expected to feel disgusted not just at their actions, but at their transness. Gender transgression is equated with moral transgression. And that sucks, right? First of all, because it perpetuates the oppression of transgender people, but it's also a huge missed opportunity. The genre of trans horror has so much potential, not because trans people are scary, they're not, but because being trans often is. I mean, you're in a body that's not your own, with a face and a voice that you don't recognize as yourself. You try to talk to other people to figure out what's wrong with you, but they just don't get it, either out of malice or because it's just so far off their radar that they never even consider it. You can try and pretend you're human, but you're not. The way you move and talk is just wrong, and everybody knows it. They probably knew before you did. And even when you realize what's wrong and how to fix it, you also understand that making your life bearable means changing it so much that it, too, will become unrecognizable. I wish there was a movie about that. I Saw the TV Glow as a movie about that. It follows Owen, a young egg who must navigate growing up, making friends, and most importantly, accepting she's trans. And then... the film is about what happens when you don't. Transness is a source of horror here, but not for the audience, at least not in the same way as in Silence of the Lambs. It is horrifying for Owen, but as her life progresses, as she becomes more and more alienated from herself and everything around her, the viewer comes to understand that transitioning is not the problem, it's the solution. Here, trans people's bodily autonomy is portrayed as a good thing, in contrast to basically every other film I've mentioned. But isn't Owen's choice not to transition also an exercise of bodily autonomy? Well, yes, but it's clearly coerced. She's lived her whole life in a society that doesn't want her to transition, so why would she? Medical transphobia exists for many reasons, but one reason is the societal fear of non-normative bodies. By transitioning, trans people seem to declare that non-conformity is better than normativity, and to a lot of cisgender people, that's very scary. The fear-mongering around so-called detransitioning ties into this as well. So much focus is placed on the minority who decide transition was wrong for them that we're ignoring a much larger group. How many millions of people throughout history made the wrong choice by not transitioning? This is what TV Glow confronts us with. So, is I Saw the TV Glow a better trans film than Silence of the Lambs? Yes, obviously, and I would hope this indicates a turn towards more positive trans representation. But you have to remember that despite its impact on the queer community, TV Glow is still very niche. Have my parents heard of it? No. Did my local cinema show it? No. Did it outperform Cocaine Bear? No. Even without accounting for inflation, Lambs made 50 times the amount of money that TV Glow did. In 1992, there were protests outside of the Oscars by gay rights groups, in part because of Lam's nomination. And earlier this year, Emilia Perez received huge backlash for similar reasons. Transphobic cinema is as big as ever, we've just gotten better at noticing. There will never be a movie so good it solves transphobia forever. Representation helps, but it needs something to help, and that something is organized political resistance. What's the value in living authentically on screen if you can't do the same in real life?